Vision casting is a picture of what could be and what should be. What is vision? Vision is about what could be and should be. Life is about the here and now. Vision is about the future. It's real easy when you do vision casting to go to the life here and now and try to fix the problems that are right now. But future or vision casting is about 3 to 5 years down the road. It's about the big problems, big solutions that take a long time to accomplish. To think about vision, you've got to be willing to believe God for big things. I don't remember who said it. Some wise man once said, if God be on your side, make big plans. William Carey said that he said, expect great things from God, or attempt great things for God and expect great things from God. A man of vision, a church with vision, is a church that's expecting God for big things. Questions vision does ask, or questions vision does not ask. That should rather read. It doesn't ask, how will we get it done? It doesn't ask, how much will it cost? It doesn't ask, what if this doesn't work, at least within reason. It doesn't ask, what if so-and-so doesn't approve? It doesn't ask, or vision thinks big picture. It's a preferred future in light of who we are as a church, where we are in this context, and our unique opportunities we have that other churches don't have. We don't want to just take what North Point's doing or what Saddleback is doing and say, because it worked there, it'll work here. We want to say, what does God want us to do in light of who we are, where we're at, and the opportunities that we have before us. Problems and solutions. This is one helpful way to think about vision casting. Think about it in terms of a problem and a solution. In order to cast a vision compellingly, you've got to define the problem that your vision addresses. And then next, you think about how the vision addresses the problem. When you link a problem that people are convinced needs to be solved with a clear and compelling solution, then you have the potential to capture people's hearts. You got to think about what we're doing here tonight is in seed form, what it is that we'll be presenting to the church as a whole later down the road, whether that's next year or whenever it is. And so I know it's not going to immediately become something compelling and convincing, but the finished product, the statement, whatever it is, whatever it ends up becoming, framing it in terms of a solution, solving a problem, is one way to ignite people's passion. And if people aren't passionate about the vision, then it's not a good vision. There's got to be a sense of urgency about the vision. The third part of your vision needs to answer the question of urgency. Why must we do this? And why must we do this now? Vision does not need to chase problems that are not urgent. There's a lot of problems that we could address as a church, but we want to address the most urgent problems, the things that must be addressed now. If they don't get addressed now, then the world will end. No, but it's very important that we address them now. People may know that there's a problem, and most people know there's probably, I've got an idea what we should do to fix it, but what people want in vision is a compelling reason for them to get involved right now, and that's what this team can help create with vision. Vision is a fresh reminder. We all need to be reminded why we are doing what it is that we are doing. We need to be reminded what's at stake, and we need to be reminded of those things through the vision. And when we did the 2010 vision or 2015 vision, that third part of there being a transition of leadership, how many times was that very helpful in reframing for people who were a little bit anxious and I don't know about all of this. When you attached it back to the vision, this is what the Lord had led us to do, then people were put at ease because they know that came from the Lord. And since that's the vision, I can be assured that what it is that we're doing is right. It's just a fresh reminder. Here's what the vision is not. This should be helpful for some of us who've never done this before. Vision is not a dream. Okay, dreams are, Martin Luther, I have a dream. That's more like a vision. He shouldn't have said dream. But a dream is it's like a 30, 50, maybe someday, eventually down the road kind of idea. It's not bad for a church to have a dream, but what we're doing in this enterprise is not that. We're thinking 3 to 5, or you might think 5 to 7 years down the road. And so it's something that can be accomplished within that time frame. Our mission is to be a Great Commandment, Great Commission, Acts 1:8 church. What does that look like in terms of vision over the next 5 years? I think something helpful that we could do during this time is to get some big dreams, but most of this process is not that. Vision is not goals and objectives. Okay, we'll do that when we do strategy planning. That's too nearsighted. It will kill the visionary process. Vision is not the same as purpose or mission. Our mission statement is to be a great commandment, great commission, Acts 1:8 church. You might say our mission is to make disciples. And vision is not the same as that. That's what is, or that's maybe what God's vision for the church is. How are we going to get that done in our location over the next 5 years? That's what vision answers. Vision is not, this is important, vision is not a new program. It's not a new project. It's not a new product. In fact, sometimes over-programming a church can cause a vision to leak because the program actually competes against the main thing. If we come out of this process and we just come up with 3 different ministries we need to start to reach new people, that may take away from the actual vision of making disciples. When churches get too much programs, they get too clunky, they can oftentimes lose sight of the main thing. So what vision should do is it should clear up the main thing. It should harness our focus. It shouldn't spread it thinner than what it already is. What is vision? Vision should establish an identity for the congregation. This is what we are, this is what we are not, and this is what we expect to become in the next 5 years. Vision is a clear, shared, and compelling picture of a preferred future to which God is calling the congregation. Okay, we're not doing what Rick Warren's doing. This is God's vision for us. It's got to be clear, and it's got to be shared. It's got to be something that everybody can buy into. It's not a matter of just having a good idea. You have to have a good idea that is widely accepted. Because if you've got a really good idea that nobody accepts, then you don't have a very effective vision. It's got to be something that everybody can own. So it's got to be shared. Clear, shared, and compelling. You don't want it to sound academic. You want it to be something that ignites passion and excitement in people. This comes from Aubrey Malfris. That's kind of hard to see, isn't it? A vision is a clear, exciting picture of God's future for your ministry as you believe it can and must be. In other words, vision has 6 elements. It's exciting, it's a picture, it's God's vision for our church, it's future focused, okay, so what got us here won't keep us here. We're not just going to repeat the past. It's a conviction that the vision can become a reality, and it's a passionate commitment that the vision must become a reality. This, I think, is a really helpful chart. Can you see that over there? No? Okay. Some of y'all can see it. Basically, there's 3 components when you think about strategic planning. You've got our mission, and what is our mission as a church? Dare I ask? We exist to be a great... Sound real confident there.
Proud of us, aren't you?
I want to read this. That's simple. Vision is the mission is a clear description of God's eternal purpose for the church. What's God's purpose for the church? Well, it looks like Great Commandment, Great Commission, Acts 1:8. Vision is a clear, shared, and compelling picture of the preferred future to which God is calling the congregation. Then the vision path, or we might call that strategic planning, is how it's listed in our timeline. That is the more detailed description of the steps that will be taken to achieve the vision. Okay, that's where we do goal setting and all of that stuff. So don't get these 2 confused and those 2 confused. The length should be several sentences or paragraphs. It usually takes 3 to 5 years. The key question is what is God's specific call for our congregation? A lot of necessary perspective. We need to do it in light of our mission, with a lot of prayer and discernment, which we've been doing it. The church's context, vision, community. In other words, in light of who we are as a church and what opportunities we have around us. I thought that was a helpful chart. Thank you, Pastor David, for that book. First things first, we will eventually create a vision path in this community. We won't do that today, but such detailed and small thinking can undermine a compelling vision. We don't want to go there first. What vision does? Vision clarifies direction. It's an interpretive grid or filter. We don't do that here at this church. Oh, yes, we do that here at this church. Why? Because this is our vision to become this kind of church. It clarifies everything. It gives you a power to say no and yes to opportunities that are in front of you. Vision impacts leadership. We may have a vision for the church, and then somebody wants to come on staff here, and we say, here's our vision for our church, and that staff person says, you know what, I don't belong here. This is not for me. Vision motivates people. They want to say, how can I be a part of what it is that we're doing? It excites them. It inspires giving, whether that's time or money or talent. When you get something clear and compelling in front of people, they will invest. And without investment, the church doesn't have the resources to pull off the vision. And so vision is important for giving. It creates energy. It fosters risk-taking. In other words, it creates big faith. Vision sustains ministry, keeps it from going off course. One of the reasons Broadview doesn't have the multitude of ministries and programs is because the vision protects us from getting too scattered out. So that's what vision does. The questions that I thought we would ask, just to kind of prime the pump. And this can be from your heart. There's no obligation for whatever you share to become the vision for the church. I just want to hear your heart, and I think it will help you open up and talk to one another. And the question is, what is your personal aspiration for Broadview? What do you hope we become as a church? Whoever goes first will be a very courageous person.
Can I say something? God's just been laying a word on my heart, family. I just feel like the family is under attack in our nation. And the church is one place we need to strengthen our families. And so I don't know how, I don't have specifics or anything like that, but I don't know. That word just keeps popping up through every ministry. How do we strengthen the family?
It's just going to be a big brain dump. I'll write down everything, whether I like it or not, which I like that. But we're just going to dump it. What else? What do you hope Broadview becomes?
A robust, disciple-making congregation.
I like that. Robust. Disciple-making congregation. What else?
Sending church.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
We regularly and methodically send people out to minister in other places.
All right.
Starting churches and doing disciple making elsewhere.
Okay.
That we would be a congregation that is hungry for the presence of the Lord.
It's good. All right. Anybody else? Your personal aspiration?
I don't really know how to word it to where it's put on the board. But I'm thinking like breaking away from the model of like church has to happen in this building at all times, and that like, we talked about that kind of idea of the pastor is the one in charge of discipling everyone, kind of just breaking away from that vision and kind of getting our own personal calls, I guess. I don't know, just
Ownership of the mission type deal? Like,
yeah, look at that.
Well, keep
On the staff.
Keep fleshing that out. I think that's good. Ownership of the mission. But I hear in what you're saying that you don't want our church to become a place in which the church services the individuals inside, but that the individuals inside are actually being the church. You don't
like
go to the
more
church.
Conviction turned into action, not just like conviction on Sunday that we take and we hide in ourselves until next Sunday. Like conviction that's then straight turned into action to go into our communities and do.
Mobilizing our members for being missionaries.
Yeah.
We're not confined to a building.
It's good.
Public.
Keep fleshing it out. What's the problem that you see behind that desire to see it changed? What are you seeing that's the problem?
Because we're telling people, I go to Broadview, that's my church, and then there's no real life witness in that. They're just seeing someone.
Conviction and activation.
Yeah, I'm like thinking of action and not thinking like, I feel like a lot of times people invite people to church because they don't know how to witness themselves, through their life and things like that. And they count on you on Sunday mornings or their small group leaders to do that witnessing. But like something about taking the ownership on themselves and all of us being little churches throughout our day,
You're going to church for a week.
But isn't that fall under the robust disciple-making congregation?
I think
Is that
you
the
Even if it does, we're going to give it another name because it's a separate
I
conviction.
I think people tend to see the church as the building. We go to church on Sunday, and no, we're the church. We're part of the unseen church of Christ, Jesus Christ. And all of us, we are the church. I'm the church. You're the church. And I think people tend to see as going to church as, I'm going to church.
Yeah.
See a physical building
Right.
instead of we are the church. We
Yes.
are the bride of Christ. We are.
it's like,
Country club reputation.
and like seeing that we have the power, we have the Holy Spirit taking captive of what like we saw in Acts. They weren't Jesus, yet they were still doing miraculous things and being really effective for the gospel, and like knowing that that's not just you that can be effective, like all of us can be effective. So
How about scattered church owning mission and vision of gathered church?
that's great.
Does that sound good?
Katie said it better. Say it out. Say it out.
I said, you're going to church, but are you being the church?
Being a church instead of going.
Going to church.
Okay.
Scattered being ownership church vision.
In the Hebrew, it doesn't work.
Forget that one to the church. Scattered vision church. Yeah. The teacher was like, I know. I wish I really could. I do.
Wonderful thing about a big whiteboard, we don't have to make a decision of whose was better. We'll just write both. Put them with carrot.
Something that I'm comfortable with the instead of.
Scattered church owning mission and vision of gathered church. Being the church instead of.
Instead
No, I
of-
don't like that. It unnecessarily makes them compete. And you want both. You want people to go to church.
We talking about the church gathered or the church scattered?
Right. That's how this distinguishes that. Is there a way being the church in addition to going to church? Would that be better? Because we're not saying going to church is bad. We're saying it's not only.
Only part of
being in church and being motivated by. I'm glad you erased that.
Because some of the sentiment, I've seen churches who will say, "Well, I just need to be the church," and they abandon life together. I don't need to go to church. It's just me and Jesus. I can be the church, and I don't think that that's biblical.
And they abandon accountability that way.
Exactly. Okay, that's a good discussion. Personal aspiration. Your personal aspiration for Broadview. What do you hope we become?
I'd like to see us.
Go ahead, Georgia.
I've been in church a long time, and it's been my desire for so long to see God do something that cannot be explained by human, by what we do. But I'd like to see the power of God just like happened in Acts.
Yeah. That's a Sharpie.
Whoops.
It's on here. Just keep writing it.
How do you get it on?
You use that in the
Use another Sharpie.
No.
Cover the expo.
West.
Where's that?
Cover it with expo marker.
Yeah, color over
Dry
it.
erase marker over it and then erase it.
No, the marker.
Use the markers, the right marker.
That's
Color
Sharpie.
over the Sharpie.
Just
Color over it.
Color
And then
over
erase. Then erase it. And hop twice.
Uh-huh.
And if that doesn't work, magic erase it.
This was the best meeting of my life.
I never had so much clarity.
Very
She missed it. She was talking to somebody.
That changes
I would never.
We're gonna have more money now because our tithe have been buying new whiteboards.
Okay, is that a good way of saying that? Visible demonstration of God's supernatural power? Jerry, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'd just like to, my personal aspiration for Broadview is to become more involved in winning our nation back for God.
All
We're
right.
getting too secular across our nation, and if we don't become involved in that, we're going to lose our nation. We're going to lose our rights.
All right. So an active participation in changing the nation's.
Just winning North America back to Christ.
And I think that, bouncing off what Jerry said, that falls a lot on our youth and teaching them how to be disciples. And so there you go, Roger. Everything's back on you.
Yeah.
But teaching our youth and our children and focusing a lot on the youth and how to groom them. That's what I would like to see, is our youth continue to grow and see those kids. Because I don't know how to word it. I can see the change in my own children in this last year that we've been coming to church and the relationships they've made with Roger and with Katie, with T. Fanny over here. And, I mean, just the change in them, changing the way that my children behave. And I think that's would go for what you're saying, because you see that lack of
Impacting future generations.
right, and then just the change in, like when you were talking about family, and it's just the change in respect of the way people treat even authority. My husband and I were driving the other day and saw somebody pulled over and passenger had their foot hanging out the window, and the cops come over. It's like, man, nobody has any respect for anything. So, and I think it begins with us grooming the youth.
And I think going off of that, like, they did statistics a while back, and I'm sure you know them, that, like, Southern Baptists were, like, one of the, like, most common to when they go to college, like, turn away from their faith because they didn't have, like, the proper roots. They didn't really know what they believed in. They just kind of had this given faith, you know, that from their parents. And so something about raising them, but also, like, some apologetic, some form of, like, you're not going to leave this church without knowing what our core values are, and without knowing why we believe what we believe, kind of thing.
Okay, that's good. How would you say that in terms of a vision? Not getting too detailed so that you narrow down programs or solutions. You're thinking big picture. That's the finished product when it comes to a new generation.
I would just say simply is equipping future generations for the work of ministry or something like that.
Yeah, educating
Or educating.
all ages.
It's also teaching them to stand up for their faith,
Defend the faith.
defend their faith, stand up for it.
Equipping next gen with what?
Equipping next gen to
Of their faith.
own their faith, or to I kind of forgot what I said.
I'm
Equipping
not sure
the
it
next
has to
gen
be
for the
next generation. I think it's all generations.
Right.
Well, she was particularly honing in on youth because of the connection that it
Well, I
has.
was thinking
towards-
even kids, you know, I'm a fourth grade teacher, and I feel like don't put anything past a fourth grader. Like, a fourth grader can be, I mean, just as effective as an adult.
The next gen falls underneath all those categories.
Yeah.
We could be a 40-year-old.
Equipping next gen for future mission.
We want to be grounded in the faith,
Right.
so that they're not slipping.
All right, equipping next gen to impact culture with the gospel. I think that ties it into the culture war Jerry's talking about.
But I think what he just said, Jeff said, I don't know that Jerry was absolutely aiming for the youth, but
Yeah, he wasn't.
There's adults that in North America, you know, Canada and the Northeast, where there's hardly any Christian influence at all. We're lucky we're in West Texas and there's church everywhere. But you go to the East Coast, you go to Canada, they don't have that. To me, I think that's something that we have to think about also.
We have a unique opportunity in the South because there's some kind of presence left of respectedness towards Christianity. So we should leverage that and send people out.
Right. And we do, I love that we go to Romania and Brazil and all that. And we still do inside the States too. I like that. But, I've heard there's people like from Africa sending missionaries here to America because America is so far away from Christianity in some areas. And maybe that's some area that we could look at.
It's good. Are you trying to create a new line item, or you're just unpacking, adding value to what we've been talking about?
Adding value to what, Jerry?
Okay, I think that's helpful. All right, personal aspiration. One more.
One thing that I was going to say that it's kind of been on my, I don't even know really how to put it in a whole lot of words, but is accountability. A particular example, when I know when one of the boys got baptized, they were given a book and said, as a parent, this is your responsibility to teach them to be a disciple maker, and try to go through it in the process. And I was even told, like, if you don't do this, then the church is going to do it for you. So having some type of accountability or follow-up to that, to make sure that those new Christians are being taken care of. Because if I didn't do it, which luckily I am, but if I hadn't, that could have fallen through the cracks. So I don't know, some type of holding members accountable. I don't even know.
I think I'm getting at what you're talking about. Every new Christian / member having some kind of discipleship concierge, some kind of personal tracking. Every new believer or member has some kind of personal accountability for helping them own the mission and vision of the church.
Would that be a specific that falls under being a robust disciple-making congregation?
It would be.
Part of the process of
right.
making disciples and sure.
And it gets a little bit into goal setting and action planning, but I think it's also a picture of everyone who is a part of our church has some kind of personal, I keep using the word concierge, it's just some kind of personal attachment from another person in the church walking them through the journey. Can I use the word concierge? Does everyone know what that means?
That's what I'm saying. I looked up
At least I could do. Sounds like guidance.
Yeah, I reminded how to spell concierge.
You're going to spell C-I-E-R-G.
How do you spell concierge?
You need that for insight.
Man, thanks, Siri.
Siri, what's your personal Broadview?
That's right, Wes, that's right.
You're laughing out loud.
Yeah, is Jordan in here? Jordan was texting me. Is Jordan in here? Jordan's supposed to be in here. Maybe he's texting me to say why he's not in here.
Or he's
All right.
on the other side of the building looking for it.
I guess so.
What keeps laughing?
Oh, yes. Oh, man.
Oh, I'm watching on
He's
Periscope. I
Periscope.
thought the meeting started at 6:30. I don't know why. Like accountability.
You were someone who commented on here. We were trying to read it.
All right. Anybody else? Something burning, you got to say it before we move on. Remember, this is just fodder for the fire. We're not owning your vision for the church, but we are hearing each other's hearts. Usually, if God's given a vision to the church, He'll give it to some of the key leadership in the church, but He'll spread it. And you'll begin to sense this shared ownership of what it is that God's really wanting. So I do believe that God gives the pastor a vision, But if that vision contradicts with everybody else in the church, then that's not God's vision. So a part of grabbing hold of what it is that God wants for the church is listening and hearing what it is that God has put on the hearts of other people, and saying, okay, what's shared, what seems to be something that isn't just an agenda, it's not just a pet project, but this is something unique God's doing in the church. Not just I see it, but a lot of people see it. And you grab hold of those threads and kind of harness it down to figure out, okay, this seems to be what God is doing. Does that make sense? So that's good. A lot of good feedback. The next question, what are the things present at Broadview that you feel the best about? What are the things missing from Broadview that, quite honestly, you're glad they're not there? This question is geared at leveraging your strengths. So there's some things about our church that you are at this church because that's in our church. There's some things missing from our church that the reason you joined this church is because those things were present at your previous church, and it almost caused you to leave the faith, and it's absent here, and that's why you love this church. This kind of question is geared at getting at the things that we don't want to start doing because that's not who we are. It's a question geared at what do we need to capitalize and do more of because this is what God is using in a unique way at our church. Is that overly explaining it a little bit? Okay. What do you think?
Are you talking specifically things like, more program side of like?
No, we're talking vision.
Okay.
Yeah, don't go programs. The picture, the big picture, this is present here. So just because we have Celebrate Recovery and another church didn't, I don't want you to say that. I want you to say Broadview is a church that reaches out to the unlovely or
balance between tradition and innovation.
Okay.
Balance between tradition and innovation.
balance between tradition and innovation?
Yes.
All right.
I like that the church expects men to be here and do something.
That's good.
Okay, I'm going to suck up here a little bit. I think it's our leadership thing, our pastors and stuff. I mean,
I like the way that, to the best of our ability, we are trying to live out our mission. We're walking the talk.
I was talking to Cecil Peasley when he was here, and he was very optimistic about Broadview, and I said, why are you so optimistic? And he said, because this is a church with vision. He could sense it, just being present in the church. Of course, he goes to a lot of other churches, but he said you can feel the subtext of a visionary church. And I think that is unique. It's not unique, but it's not present in some churches. Some churches just doing business as usual to do it. There seems to be this subtext of we're on a mission trying to get things done in our church fellowship. So that's good.
I was going to say how biblically rooted we are. I mean, a lot of churches kind of just they go too far off of that, and we need that. It needs to be the focus.
That's what I was going to say. That's one of the reasons we joined Broadview was just the Bible was taught.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. We don't want to hear chicken soup for the soul in sermons. Bible.
That really is the reason that we chose them. We really felt differently going through 4 different churches before we ended up here was just how much in the Word the church, everything was. Like, wow. And not only that, but that it wasn't dry.
By that you mean boring?
Yep.
First time you heard Bible teaching that wasn't boring?
I mean, it's Bible teaching and I was awake at the end.
I think some of the wins, and I'm not sucking up, and you can go places a lot of preachers won't go. You get some become titles or subjects that people stay away. You just meet it head on and say, this is where we are, this is where we stand, and this is what we believe.
I think that's called boldness.
Yeah. But you do it in a way that's, at the same time, we're not judging others. We still are accepting, but you let them know where we stand.
It's intellectual and spirit driven, I feel like. I don't feel like there's ever a doubt that you studied what you preached on Sunday.
I'd say that it's genuine. It's not just the preaching, but the love that you feel when you come in this church is very genuine. It doesn't feel forced or anybody's being nice because they have to.
When it's consistent, you know, if you're gone and Brother David's teaching, it's still there. I mean, it's not. Sometimes when you have like our pastor's letters, I want to go, okay, well, it's going to be totally different. It's very consistent.
Which shows you it's a cultural thing in the church. It's part of the identity and DNA.
Right, the church is taking the time to step back and check where we are with our vision and then continue planning ahead, kind of like your spirals earlier.
What are some things not present in our church you're glad aren't present?
I don't see, even though we have a wide, we have young people and old people, and I don't see that, you know, us old people go to this one, the young people go to this one, and then, you know, our service needs to be this better, you know. It's all one church, and you can see all age groups and everybody at each of the services, and I know there's kind of some separation, but it's only because of maybe the music and not because of the beliefs or anything. Everybody is on the same page, even though we have a wide diversity of people.
I think this church doesn't cater to the secular world.
All right, what do you mean by that?
Especially in the homosexuality and like the pornography and stuff. We're standing against it, but welcome them in to give them love. But I mean, that's one of the things, like, we would never go to a church that would allow homosexuals to get married into it. I mean, that is something that we would not do because we don't believe in that. But at the same time, I believe we need to welcome them in and let them feel our love, but we don't approve of their actions.
Right.
Welcome, but don't.
Right.
Good balance of grace and truth.
And that's one thing that Broadview does not allow. But if it was allowed, we would not come here and allow.
It's good. It's not allowed.
Is it in our bylaws?
Well, our bylaws state our BFM 2000 has a clause, but we, I think legally need to add a few more clauses on the family and marriage. We've got the language written, we just haven't voted it in. But yeah, we're protected.
Can you explain BFM 2000?
Baptist Faith and Message 2000, Southern Baptist Theology, conservative side. It'll get us distracted.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's good enough.
That's all right. Okay. Anything else pressing?
Wes, I'm just glad that that there's a high level of trust between the leadership and the congregation does not, or the internal leadership does not feel the need to micromanage the staff and leadership, so that there's a freedom to cast a vision and not be undercut.
That's good. That is unique. A lot of churches would not allow a young staff to do some of the things our young staff has done. Some of the things we've done maybe weren't as wise as they could have been, but there seemed to have been a high level of trust on both sides, both on the staff downward, openness to the congregation, hearing what it is that they think and believe, and willingness on the congregation to give permission to do some things that maybe they normally wouldn't love. That's unique. Not a lot of churches have that.
Similar to that autocratic leadership where you get a cultic from the leadership. They become cultic to the fact that they control the congregation. So.
Right. Which would be not present. Well, not present in this church.
One of the things too that our church, we're not only the sinners and stuff like that, but I've been in churches where, preachers have been afraid of having other pastors in their church or other clergy, and stuff and everything. And I'm so glad that we're so open, we don't have anything.
Well, this here is because of Pastor David's leadership of being someone trustworthy, worthy of trust. A lot of this comes from Pastor David and I's willingness to have that kind of relationship that we have. And a lot of this stuff is here. The strength of Broadview is here because of the legacy of previous generation, and hopefully a younger generation continues to maintain that level of appreciation, desire to see it present.
Another thing is competition that we don't have, that we don't want to ever happen between ministries and staff, and just old people, young people, and competitive, kind of like division within yourself. There's a terminology for that, but I can't recall it.
No silos.
Yeah, silos is one of them. Yeah. Everybody's ministry becomes their, their
Hill on which they die.
Yeah.
All right, next question. This gets down to, we're talking single words, single sentences, take down all of our strengths, all of our things that make us unique, all of your own personal aspirations, but having listened to some of the things that have been going on. Of all the things Broadview could do over the next 3 to 5 years, which ones will help us make the most rapid progress towards the achievement of our mission? All the things that we could do, what's going to help us make the most rapid progress towards the achievement of our mission? And as you're thinking about that one, think of it in terms of, if we had unlimited resources, you knew you wouldn't fail, what would we trust God to do through our church?
I would say we have to be a church that executes and follows all the way through to the end of what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah, sorry. So, execution.
And this needs to be termed in terms of vision. You want a picture of your preferred future.
Prayer. Praying first.
Invest in our mission statement.
I think one of the ways we can invest in the mission statement is to increase our giving to Lottie Moon, because they've brought home 600 to 800 missionaries because of lack of funds.
Well, you'll be happy with the new World Missions Offering brochure. We'll be any. Think through some of these things.
Disciple-making, I think, is the biggest.
How would you phrase that in terms of compelling vision? What's a compelling vision for the future? Every disciple making a disciple. That's pretty comprehensive. Remember, vision language needs to be compelling, comprehensive, and clear. You need to say it and it grab people. That's wow. That's exciting. How would you say those kinds of things through that grid? And we need to rethink some of this. and this doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, we'll go through that process, but I want you to be careful with your language. I want you to really try to think visionarily. I want you to think in terms of vision and filter your language through that grid of clear, compelling, and comprehensive.
Discipleship execution.
So, should we kind of get a rough draft, because some of us can't think that fast and that quickly.
We can do that.
What about the confidence in our own ability to make disciples?
Say that again. A confidence
in our own ability to make disciples.
I was just looking on there as you're writing, Wes, just looking at everything, it's things that we want to give. We've got to find a way to teach our congregation ownership to what they will receive it. No matter what we teach and what we do, we've got to find a way where people will grab ownership of it. It's kind of the ability to make disciples. We have the ability to make disciples. We've got to find a place where people will come and say, I want to be a disciple. I will take ownership of this myself. I was just thinking on the strength of the family, everything is, we're going to do this to people. We've got to get people to take it.
High expectations in regard to that.
It's got to be coupled with easy entry. It's got to be coupled with easy entry. With high expectations, it's got to be easy to enter. Sometimes it's hard to enter.
Fear?
I think that's a good discussion to have. High expectations on membership, yet continue to be a church with easy entry. Church unchurched people love to attend. It's okay to not be okay. You can even almost just kind of be checking things out. And yet, if you're going to really be a part of the mission and vision, you're going to be invested, then you own it to the degree. The more you own of our church, the higher the expectations are going to become. That's not an easy balance.
We need to keep it simple.
An example of that way, just because you're right. Today, the boys wrote the circle. Like, it's the first time they've ever paid attention after worship. Like at worship, okay, now I'm gonna see a scripture and I'm just gonna look it up in my Bible. That's their limit. And today, both of them had a notebook and they both wrote the circle in the 3 words on the side and the big 2 words at the bottom. And I was like,
that's encouraging.
That's wow. I mean,
that's great.
I got a little I'm just super emotional, but like, man, that's.
Men can come.
Almost. I mean, but when your kids are grasping something like this, they're not gonna.
They were sharing that in class.
They understood
today.
that.
They were sharing it.
The boys retaught it.
They were asked because we talked about it, a little bit because today our Sunday school lesson was about forgiveness, like in the whole. Anyways, and like, but before we got into all that, we talked about a little bit about the service and stuff. And like, oh look, this is what we learned in the service, and they were showing all the kids.
Cool. Now I'm gonna cry.
I mean, that's awesome.
I was going to tell you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's really, really good. What I'm going to do, so that we don't unnecessarily bog ourselves down, Mondo had a good point. Somebody has to write the vision statements, and that somebody will be me. But I will take everything that we've talked about. I'll take this whiteboard and I think the general tenor of what I hear and write down some language. And then I'll present it next time we meet, and we can say yay or nay, change this word here, this needs something added. We can toy around with it. But that said, I still want you to help me with this part so that I'm accurately representing what's in your heart and what it is that you're thinking.
I think more of a sending, sure.
By that you mean church planting?
Yes. And long-term missionaries that we're supporting.
Church planting, missionary sending.
I wouldn't say become a sending church. I think we are a sending church, maybe strengthened, because we are supporting missionaries in doing that.
Exponential growth as a sending church, planting churches, sending missionaries.
Would some of this be more easier to accomplish if we were a debt-free church?
Yeah. Anybody else see that?
Yeah, that bothers me.
How many of you feel like part of the vision of our church should be getting debt free? Okay, that's everybody. I think most everybody. How much of our vision should be dependent on staying debt free? How many of you would raise your hand?
So what do you can you word it? I say never go
into debt again.
I hate to tie it, but I think that should be our a goal. I mean,
with exceptions.
right. I mean, I don't want to say if we have a strong. If something comes up and everybody feel that God's leading us that way, and we have this arbitrary, it's not arbitrary rule, it's a good rule. But I don't want to say, we can't do that because we have this thing.
So our first avenue should always be to pursue doing something debt-free.
That's just there.
Yeah, we won't chase that debate down too much further, but good point. I was just kind of curious, really. I was hoping no one would say, stay out of debt, because it makes it really hard to make rapid progress, but I do think there's no reason why we can't get debt free really quick. And in light of our economic situation, it's probably very wise. If the culture starts persecuting Christians at the level of their tax-free status and we have to start paying taxes as a church, it really limits our financial strength. So we need to be debt-free so we can take the hit if or when it happens.
One other thing that was kind of, I keep seeing us going out, and then he brought something up, easy access. And I think we need to keep that as a vision, is make sure that people feel, and kind of mentioned it, people feel welcome into the church. And it's like, make sure that we have that in the back of our mind. Because we always, when I do a vision thing, I always start looking at what I'm going to do out there, and I forget what's at home and how we're going to take care of that.
I want to make sure we don't forget Abilene.
That's what I was going to say, you maybe take some baby steps along the way, show our leadership ability in our own city that people recognize.
How would we say that? Create unmistakable local presence.
Positive.
Pastor David used to ask the question, if this church was gone tomorrow, would anybody realize that it was even here before? I probably didn't say that properly.
Would anybody miss us?
Would anybody miss this church in our community?
It's a great question. Don't forget about this. If we had unlimited resources, we knew we couldn't fail, what would we trust God to do through our church? I mean, let's think really, really big. We'll do that up here.
Have church plants in North America, more than just one.
I go bigger than her. I would
How many?
save this country. I'm bringing this country
3 to
back
5 years. Big, in 3 to 5 years. Well, didn't I just undermine
Hey, you
your
just
thing?
put her in a box.
Change
You
what
do
it
that for
is.
5 years.
It's totally limited me.
Change the world.
That'd be nice.
Katie, how many churches you want to plant in North America?
We talking 5 years?
3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
5 churches?
5, yeah.
5?
I don't really know. I don't know what this looks like, but impacting orphans, something like citywide, statewide, worldwide.
No orphan in Abilene, Texas?
Yeah. 'Cause I just, yeah.
But you want to do more than just Abilene? You want to?
Still be orphans, meet their needs.
Yeah. But I feel like it isn't, there's not equal.
Limited resources.
No child
Common Core.
I know.
In the area of making disciples, if you had unlimited resource, you knew you couldn't fail. What's the perfect picture of a church that's making disciples? What does it look like?
I would
3
love
to
to
5 years from
see.
now.
I would love to see people being brought in, raised up, and being able to be sent out to go to be the church planners, to be the people that make an impact in the places we're going. I don't know how you
Say that shortly.
Everybody at
2 words.
Every disciple making a disciple, every minister with the
Disciple
ministry.
multiplying.
Well, more specific than that, like really taking real real callings of leadership, of pastoral ministries, or people that have callings to maybe go overseas like missionaries, or something like that. Being able to raise them up in home and then send them out. I don't know what you would say shortly on that. I don't know how you
Being
would describe
able to
it.
disciple, train, and send every minister for every type ministry. Being able to disciple, train, and send every member for every type ministry.
It always happens at the right time.
Disciple.
Getting cold over?
And I say that real quick, just to let you guys know. I heard Saddleback, and I'm not trying to compare us to Saddleback or trying to do what they do, but they sent out somewhere like 6,500 missionaries over the life of their church. Overseas and North America and South America. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, I know it's I know it's got a little bit shorter, but I mean, that blows my mind to think, man, what if we could start kind of getting that going a little bit? That'd be amazing.
Would there be a vision for a staff member to be involved in heading up the discipleship program or discipleship development, or whatever you want to call it, program?
Yeah, I think it would be necessary. Absolutely, if it's going to happen. It might go a little more under goal setting and the strategy planning part. Where's my discipleship staff to facilitate?
Yeah, I guess that'd probably be a action plan underneath that. Go whatever you write down as the vision for discipleship.
One of the things is, this might not be what you're thinking or looking for, but she's at the No Orphans in Abilene, and one of the things that keeps coming to my mind is the only way I ever got to the church as a child is a church that would pick me up and bring me home. And that's the only way I got to go to church. My parents didn't take me, that was how I got to go. And I don't know if we do that here, if we go out and we have buses or like the church van that picks up.
Broadview West does.
Vernon gets about 200 kids and people live.
All wearing seatbelts though. But that was a big, that's the only reason I knew God, was because I had churches that picked me up and took me home.
We do that on a very small level, at least in the youth ministry. Like I'll have a couple of my leaders sometimes pick up students, but yeah, we don't have like a bus transportation from the
Right.
main campus, but Vernon.
I think that
goes-
could be a 3 to 5 year goal to actually have that.
Yeah.
And that could also be for elderly also, right? Not just for children.
We better put in building growth.
I think that goes without saying.
Because we need more room if we're looking at this.
You know, in discipleship, I think we also got to make sure, and we do this here, is share the plan of salvation. And the reason I'm saying that is I work with 5 kids, junior high kids, that go to another church, someplace else, and they've never heard the plan of salvation. They're in junior high. And they've never heard it. And they went to church.
And they went to church?
And they went to church, yes. So, you know, that's been heavy on my heart, you know. How do I go about?
Evangelique.
Yeah.
We can show you.
Let it. You know, I just send a card to this church and say, hey.
Maybe try the gospel.
Yeah.
Well, I think that goes into the, like, when we talked about earlier, equipping the next generation. I think sometimes they believe that, like, that's too young to present something so abstract or, you know, something difficult. Don't underestimate your child.
That's right.
Well, along those lines of taking care of these children, maybe someday we could actually have a presence in the school. Someday. Maybe we could have an actual presence at the school.
Oh, I was gonna say that, but I thought it was goal. I just, school.
There's some, the ball's rolling in that direction.
Well, there's tangible presence of other, you know, of other churches in school and and particularly my school. So I know like certain things that they're doing, and I think they're very doable. We just have to put them in.
That guy in the Jesus hat's got the ball rolling.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, go up to your alley.
All right, what else? Unlimited resources. We knew we couldn't fail. What do we trust God to do through our church? Think about what's making Broadview unique. What do we need to capitalize on in light of who we are?
The unreached people group of India, to be able to seriously see rural multiplication take place in India and seeing churches planted over there. So we're targeting it to unreached people group. I think if you have a lot of resources, man, you can really get the ball rolling. Unlimited resources.
I think our church also, not cutting you off, Roger, be sorry.
No.
We offer a bunch of things. If there's a way we could get Abilene, we've got to get word out. I think a lot of Abilene doesn't even know we exist here for one thing, and what we do. They drive by when they think we're just another church. They go right by, and if we can find a way, it's going to have to be through our congregation, I think, to let people know what we are and what we're doing. We helped a man here a week or so ago, and he said he'd been to many churches, and no churches gave him the time of day, and we were the only ones that took him in and even tried to help him or show any compassion for him. And so if churches are getting that reputation in Abilene, and we're trying to do something different, we've got to find a way to let people know, you know, what we're about.
That's what the church scattering does.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think kind of increasing our reputation of being like a rehabilitation church, like having that as one of our main focuses is, you know, not just, you know, celebrate recovery, but, you know, we have something for homosexuals, same-sex attraction, pornography, you know, just a church that's all about rehabilitating the lost. Not just giving them, well, not necessarily counseling per se, but just like, well, I guess counseling is
Kind of comes up to what is like always it's big on my heart is creating like a counseling, and Corey and I talked about that before we disappeared, is having that here. That'll bring more, especially unchurched people in to know that they have a place to go for support groups. And
like free resources, because a lot of counselors, man, they charge a ton of money and
Right.
they can't get the help. But if we could offer free resources to somebody,
And I see it in like a relationship model, like Celebrate Recovery is like a small group type thing, but
Not
more of
necessarily
like a
person.
rehabilitating, not just like share our feelings, but like where to move past that kind of thing, not just a talk and feel good, like a move mission away from
well,
that.
that's kind of like what Celebrate Recovery does.
Right,
It's
exactly.
a place to connect with other people that you have a connection with and a common friend, but also to help you grow spiritually.
And I don't know what all Celebrate Recovery encompasses, but I'm just thinking.
We're Tuesdays at 6.
We may have said this already, it may fall under one of those categories of disciple and send every member. But I mean, just sending multiple families and supporting them on the mission field in other countries.
How many families in the next 5 years?
5.
We're going to plant 5 churches, might as well send 5 families.
One for each year.
That's right.
How many different people
Send
we have
five
go on
missionary
mission trips today?
families. 5 different countries or just 5 overseas?
I would just say,
locations,
We
mission
sent
Yeah.
100.
This year.
And what did we say we were trying
yeah, I
to
don't
do
necessarily
when we did
mean,
this
you know,
before?
specific,
500.
500?
but
Say that again.
resources.
500 or 600?
Hold on one second. So what, overseas, or what do you say I need to correct?
Well, I mean, Roger was
Roger
asking, does that
contradicted you?
include North American? And I mean, I think it could. I was just
I'm saying
thinking
everywhere.
sending 5, or whatever number we come up with, without getting too specific right now, but multiple families and supporting them on the mission field. So,
That gets us that. Sorry, Dave, I cut you
No,
off.
no, you're
You were saying
fine.
500 people do what?
No, I was saying, how many different people have we sent on mission trips so far?
Well, this year was 100, this year.
We sent 100 different people this year.
Yes.
I think we hit our goal of 600.
Yeah, that was my second question. What was our, from the previous?
and I was talking long-term too, not just a short-term trip. I'm talking.
Then were you
Yes.
talking support 5 families
That's
or
right.
like
Yes.
5 families from Broadview?
Yes.
Both, yes.
Sending them from our congregation long-term
We support them
overseas.
as they're there
Yes.
as far as
They would be our
monies
missionaries.
and
Why would we support them as a church, sending them to support them when we have a Broadview program or a mission board that does send them out to support?
Because the IMB has requested that churches who are able send people from their church to
And
partner with
we'll support them
IMB
like the
people.
Independent Baptist do?
Well, I'm not familiar with Independent Baptist methodology, but I know David Platt has requested that in addition to supporting the cooperative program, that churches who are capable send their own people long-term, not just short-term trips, but 8, 12 months at a time, working with the IMB person on the ground, doing missionary work in that context. Because they can't send out enough missionaries and get enough work done, they're asking churches of size that can do it to make a bigger investment personally as a church in any given part of the mission field, which is why they've restructured how they receive missionaries in the IMB. That was one of the big changes that Platt made when he first started, was redefining the qualifications for being affiliated with the IMB as a missionary, and it was all related to that. It's something they're having to shift to because the landscape of missions is starting to change. And like in India, they're partnering with other people who are not Southern Baptists, so they kind of had to weaken some of those regulations as well.
Since we are located in Abilene, I know this is like, kind of crazy, but to think of us reaching a majority of Abilene for Christ, I mean, to where we see church unity take place with churches around us, us coming together to really impact this place to where it's literally a kingdom-focused city, you know what I mean? I know it's thinking like really, really big, and how do you
Are you
do
saying
that?
present the gospel to every person in the city of Abilene?
Yeah,
What
because
are
we got like
trying to say?
128, 128,000 population.
Mhm.
I mean, how much are really in churches plugged in, being discipled? I think I would dare to say, I would hate to say, but I think it's far less than what we think it is, just because there's churches on every corner. We're starting to see that culture shift, from being a Bible Belt culture to a we don't really care culture. I mean, God's placed us here. We got to really focus on what He wants us to harvest here locally.
Just didn't we do that a few years ago, David? Didn't all the churches get together and we passed out those DVDs or something, hit every home and
Yeah, tried to anyway. I don't know what you guys done.
What about even attracting like the younger generation to bring them into church? That's the ones that I see the most pushback from, with wanting to fight against me, like, oh, I don't believe or whatever. The town that I'm from, which I'm sorry it's Midland, I'm not proud of it, but one of the things that they have there that I've always thought was really cool, because it brings in a lot of people, is Rock the Desert. And it's just a big thing. It's all Christian bands, but it started out really, really small, and it's huge. And Midland's grows, so I mean, something like that in Abilene.
Well, we're just to let you know, we got something in the works, at least for the youth ministry department, to where we're doing what's called citywide, to where we're seeing like 15, 20 churches coming together for a massive event in January, to where there's probably going to be over 1,000 students. I think current student population from 6th grade to 12th grade, somewhere around like 10,500 students. So we're actually hitting a good chunk of students within that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's something we're trying to unify the youth ministries to see that happen.
Also, remember, we're not wanting to get so detailed that we're actually hitting specific programs or specific events. We're thinking big picture vision. I know it's easy to go there. You default to that mode, especially if you're detail oriented. But we want to keep big picture thinking in view so that we can harness, okay, what are the must-dos, what are the must-haves, and move forward from that. Then we get to detail language and solving problems.
Wes, I think we talked about orphans, and something I think I mentioned last year was the modern day widow, and that's the single mom epidemic. And it is bad nationwide, but I know in my experience I've really seen it bad in Abilene. And then you mentioned the statistic that
outrageously
it's
high.
11% higher than the national average. It's a real problem. And those moms, I mean, I've worked with a lot of them. They want to go to church, but most of them are working retail jobs or jobs where they have to work on Sundays, and they really struggle to get them and their kids into church.
I'll just say one thing on that. The reason why Abilene has a higher single mom thing, I feel like anyway, is because we don't have an abortion clinic here. And with the Crisis Pregnancy Center and Pregnancy Resources Lab, we have a pretty good success rate with
Something else that contributes is the military. She's been divorced her against the high military. I want to be a military city. That's also cool.
One last thing. She said military, someone said military. I think that'd be something that we really, I mean, think about that mission field that rotates people in and out continuously. I think our impact's very limited when it comes to reaching out to that base and making a real impact to where they literally are going all over the world. And so that's another, I mean, you don't have to write it up there, just a thought, throw out there.
May fit into subset of one of these. So my job is to take a lot of this stuff and boil it down. Some of it will be easy to boil down. Some of it I'm just going to have to make a judgment call on. It's important, but it's not most important. I see some things up here that are big picture categories that I think a lot of the other things will subset underneath it, and I'll try to work towards that. And then again, we'll meet again and we'll kind of manipulate the language and really. We need to leave this place saying, yes, that represents what we believe God's heart is for our church as we've sought to discern it. I know it's 7:30 and I want to respect your time. I don't want to beat a dead horse, and there's been a lot of good collaboration, and I don't want it to devolve into something unfruitful. The last question I had was, what can we do over the next 3 to 5 years that will carry on 30 to 50 years after we're dead? That question forces you to think, how can I invest myself today in a way that will live beyond me in a significant way?
I think that disciple-making circle is continuous. If that becomes a huge habit method. Everything we do goes through that filter. It never stops. It continues. The next person takes it to someone else, and they take it, and they take it, and they take it.
I think the huddle, I guess it's the disciple making huddle that we work on Tuesday mornings has huge ramifications that could definitely be realized over time, which is all based on the disciple making and the tools that you're teaching in the morning. And the huddle is just taking the different shapes and the different things and making it easy. We talked about making it easy to teach this and to know that, and that's kind of what the huddle is based around is.
Disciple-making culture of multiplication. You change the culture of a church, you're affecting more than just one generation.
Hopefully church plants.
I think making a church plant sustainable, sustainability has to be a major factor because that will carry over for many, many years.
I guess to be healthy church plants. Healthy church plants, because they're going to be there. You don't have to worry about it. They're healthy churches.
One of the opportunities may be that we have many Baptist churches in town that have 10 to 30 people in them that are dying. They're going to die quickly if nothing changes. That we're making all the disciples, and part of the disciples sending them out to regenerate these churches that get to a point where they're dead and willing to go to mission status and plant gospel centers in these churches. Not that it becomes a church itself, but gospel ministries work out of that all over the city.
What's that statistic like? Something crazy, like over 1,000 churches for the SBC are closing like annually or monthly or something crazy. It's a crazy number. Just going to show you that how important that is, church revitalization type idea.
Make all these disciples, we've got to send them somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
What about this sending stuff? Does that have an impact 30 to 50 years in Kolkata, India?
Huge.
It's pretty big.
Even in the planting healthy churches too, you know, if it goes into we're sending our own people that have been discipled here and they're carrying that healthy culture that's at Broadview.
You say one person, you don't know what that one person can do, you know, in the next round. I mean,
It's just really unbelievable. Anything else? Big thinking affects 30, 50 years down the road.
I think making this church not about a personal, like based upon a pastor's, how do you say that? Making this a church that where it's truly a unified church that is Ephesians 4:12, equipping the saints for the work of the ministry. Not making just I'm looking for a word here where like it's based around identity. One pastor, like a personality, based around personality, but it's a church that has a culture that we work together, and it's not just one man show kind of an idea. And that way this church will sustain even years after any of us who are leaders or volunteers are gone.
How about a culture of a church attached to a mission, not a man? Shifting the culture to being attached to the mission of making disciples, not any given individual or pastor.
And keep getting younger people involved. That we don't become an old church. Which we're not. I mean, we do have, but I've been in churches where, they.
Right.
So that means all staff has a life expectancy?
Hey, you're getting old, Jeff.
Well, we just start voting you to go overseas.
You don't have to vote me across town.
I'm already looking.
Or even the town side.
Can't stand y'all.
All right, we're gonna shut it down there. Next time we meet, we'll take the vision statements that we're gonna develop. And man, it's perfect timing. We're actually gonna be taking a staff retreat, so staff can help me think through a lot of this. We'll come back and present the language, and then we'll tweak it. And then I've created 2 more slides considering the vision statement. We'll make sure that it's sticky. We'll make sure that it motivates the church to action, and we will make sure it's able to answer all of these questions. Is the vision clear? Do people understand it? Is it exciting? Do they get excited when they hear it? Is it a picture of the future? Can you see it? Is it God's vision for the church? Is it future focused? Do people believe that it can be? Is it feasible? And are you convinced that it must be? Are you passionate about it? If we're not able to answer in the affirmative, all those questions, our job is not yet done. Once we get the vision, then we do the hard work of planning out how to get it done. That's why we got the detail people on our team. All right, any last